Deep within Smith County, Tennessee, lies a stretch of wilderness that you won't find on any commercial tourist map. The locals call it a Blackwood. It spans roughly 70,000 acres of dense, ancient pines and jagged limestone ridges. A place where digital compasses spin erratically, GPS signals drop without warning, and satellite reception dies the very moment you cross an invisible perimeter. America's national parks and state forests hide thousands of stories about people vanishing into the brush. Most can be explained by dehydration, predatory wildlife, or rough terrain. But in Blackwood, people don't just disappear. They come back. Only, they aren't exactly the same as when they left. The elders of the old Appalachian settlements believe that time in these woods doesn't move in a straight line, but rather in a ritualistic, seasonal circle split into 3 distinct phases. 3 cosmic windows through which an ancient, unnamed earth deity collects its toll. If you look closely at historical county records dating back to the late 1700s, a terrifying pattern emerges. Every 20 years, precisely on the dot, the forest demands a soul. Today, as I paint these 3 round canvases to form a unified triptych, we are going to dive deep into the classified files, the recovered audio transcripts, and the local folklore of the Blackwood disappearances. Grab a warm drink, dim your lights, and let us look into the very first window of the triptych, the season of the trap. Chapter 1, Little Summer, the disappearance of Emily Clark. Our story officially begins in the sweltering July of 1976. The United States was celebrating its bicentennial, and 4 college students from Nashville decided to escape the city noise by kayaking down a wild, unnamed tributary just off the southern boundary of Blackwood. Among them was 20-year-old Emily Clark. Emily was an aspiring fine art photographer, known by her peers as free-spirited, deeply observant, and always chasing the perfect natural light. According to the written statements later taken by the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, the first 2 days of the trip were entirely uneventful. But on the 3rd evening, July 14th, the atmosphere shifted. At approximately 7:42 p.m., just as the sun began to sink below the horizon, the air in the valley went dead still. Witnesses from a neighboring logging camp miles away noted that the usual evening chorus of cicadas and tree frogs abruptly stopped. A suffocating, heavy heat settled over the river. In Appalachian folklore, this eerie atmospheric silence is known as the whispering summer. It's a phenomenon where the barometric pressure drops so low and the woods become so quiet that the human auditory nerve begins to hallucinate. Travelers report hearing the distinct sound of a human voice mimicking their loved ones, whispering their names from the shadows of the brush. Emily stepped away from the camp gravel bar, carrying her mechanical Canon FTB camera. She told her boyfriend, David, that she was just going to walk 30 yards into the tree line to capture the sunset through the pine canopy. David later stated, "The sky didn't look normal. It wasn't a regular pink or gold sunset. It was a heavy, udushajushi, blood orange hue that seemed to cast no shadows. It looked like the sky was bleeding." Emily walked past a row of ancient, twisted white pines. Her friends heard the sharp, rhythmic crunch of dry pine needles beneath her boots, and then nothing. When she didn't return after 20 minutes, David and the others began shouting her name. Their voices didn't echo. They described the forest air as feeling like thick velvet, swallowing every sound they made. They searched with flashlights until dawn, but found no trace. The subsequent search and rescue operation was one of the largest in Smith County history. Over 100 volunteers, state rangers, and bloodhounds combed the perimeter. However, the search dogs exhibited a bizarre behavioral anomaly. Whenever the handlers guided them toward a specific low-lying hollow, the hounds would stop dead in their tracks. They whimpered, tucked their tails between their legs, and pressed themselves flat against the dirt, refusing to move forward even under the threat of discipline. On the 20th day of the search, Sheriff Marcus Vance pushed past the line where the dogs refused to go. In the heart of the hollow, he stumbled upon a clearing that defied geological logic. It was a perfectly circular meadow, about 50 yards wide, where no weeds grew, only a ring of dark, rotting pine needles. In the exact center of this circle stood a freestanding stone archway leading down into an old, dry well. The masonry was crumbling, covered in black moss, made of heavy limestone blocks that bore no tool marks. Local historical societies later confirmed that no homestead or farm had ever existed in that valley. The well had been there before the maps were ever drawn. Resting right on the stone lip of the well was Emily Clark's camera. The strap was neatly coiled. The lens cap was off. Emily herself was gone. Chapter 2. Awoken Spring. The fragmented return. Nearly 10 months passed. The winter of 1976 was one of the coldest on record in Tennessee, locking the Blackwood wilderness under feet of ice and frost. The case of Emily Clark grew cold, filed away under the tragic category of lost and perished due to exposure. But in May of 1977, the thaw arrived. The heavy snowpack in the upper ridges of the Appalachians began to melt rapidly, sending torrents of freezing, icy water down into the lowlands of Blackwood, turning the forest floor into a maze of dense, fog-choked marshes. On the morning of May 12, 1977, an elderly cattle farmer named Thomas Miller, whose property directly bordered the northern fence line of the state forest, woke up at 4:30 a.m. to check on a pregnant heifer. The morning air was freezing, and a thick, unnatural violet-grey fog was rolling off the tree line, hugging the ground like smoke. As Miller walked near a creek bed that fed into the Blackwood interior, he spotted a figure. A person was walking slow, barefoot, directly through the middle of the ice-cold, rushing stream. The figure was wearing a light floral print cotton summer dress. Miller recognized the dress instantly from the missing person posters that had been plastered on every gas station wall for the past year. It was Emily Clark. Miller hollered out to her, "Emily, stop right there, girl. It's Tom Miller." The figure didn't flinch or speed up. She continued her slow, rhythmic stride through the freezing water. Miller scrambled down the muddy embankment to grab her, but as he crossed into the violet fog, he later testified to the FBI that the air became instantly unbreathable. When Miller got within 5 feet of her, the girl stopped and slowly turned her head. Miller's jaw dropped. The face belonged to Emily, but the humanity was entirely gone. She didn't speak. She didn't scream. She simply turned back toward the woods and began to drift. Not walk, but float slightly above the rocky creek bed, heading back into the deep fog of the Blackwood interior. Miller tried to pursue her, but his legs grew heavy and a sudden, intense vertigo brought him to his knees. The local authorities searched the creek bed later that afternoon. They found no footprints in the mud, only a half-mile trail of those glowing, unclassified purple flowers that withered into black slime the moment they were clipped and exposed to direct sunlight. Chapter 3: Eternal Frost. The Master of the Woods. The final act of the Blackwood cycle took place in December of 1977, during the winter solstice, the exact date when the seasonal loop was scheduled to close. This final phase is known in the colonial diaries of the 18th century as the Eternal Frost. According to ancient Cherokee accounts from the region, as well as the secret journals of early European fur trappers, Blackwood is governed by a physical entity that is as old as the mountains themselves. They referred to it as the Horned King, the Winter Warden, or the Lord of Frost. It is not a ghost, nor is it a product of a human mind. It is the ancient sovereign will of the wilderness made manifest in flesh, bone, and bark. It only shows itself when the year dies, at the exact moment the sun reaches its lowest point. On the night of December 21st, 1977, 3 seasoned local hunters, all of them military veterans who knew the Tennessee backwoods like the back of their hands, were tracking a wounded buck near the northern perimeter of Blackwood. They had accidentally crossed the state forest line, ignoring the no trespassing signs erected by the Bureau of Land Management. The night sky was astronomical anomalies. The full moon was massive, hanging low over the jagged limestone peaks, but it didn't look white. In its right hand, the creature gripped a massive staff carved from a single, unbroken bone of an extinct megafauna. The hunters were men of grit, but they later admitted to military doctors that they were struck by a primal evolutionary paralysis. Their fingers froze on the triggers of their Winchester rifles. They could not look away, and they could not run. The horned entity slowly turned its shadow-void face toward the men. And in that exact moment, the oldest hunter, a veteran of the Korean War named Arthur Pendleton, felt a sudden, comforting warmth wash over his chest, despite the freezing air. Inside his head, breaking through the static of his terror, he heard a voice. It wasn't the booming voice of a god. It was the soft, echoing, distinct voice of 20-year-old Emily Clark. The voice inside his skull said only 5 words. "Don't be afraid. I am finally warm." The very next day, the federal government officially reclassified the entire Smith County sector. Heavy steel fences were erected, and armed guards from the Department of Energy were stationed at the main logging access roads, citing underground geological instability. But the park rangers who worked the perimeter knew the real reason for the quarantine. When the spring thaw arrived 5 years later, a routine patrol ventured back into the circular meadow. On the stone rim of the old well, they found 4 vintage mechanical cameras set up in a perfect, neat circle facing the center. 1 belonged to Emily Clark. The other 3 belonged to hikers who had vanished from the county in 1956, 1936, and 1916, respectively. Each camera was fully wound, waiting for the next collector to develop the film. Epilogue: The Closed Circle. When you piece all 3 chapters of this dark Appalachian chronicle together, the geometry of the Blackwood Triptych becomes terrifyingly clear. These 3 round canvases aren't separate paintings. They are a map of a closed loop. If you align the edges of the circles on your screen, you will see that the winding, icy creek from the spring canvas flows directly into the frozen limestone foundation of the winter well. The only question that remains is a simple one. If you were walking alone through those pines in the dead silence of a hot July evening, and you heard a soft, familiar voice whisper your name from the dark, would you have the strength to turn around and run? Or would you step through the stone arch and join the eternal cycle of the frost?
Thank you for listening to my story to the end. I hope you enjoyed it. Watch it to the end and see the finished painting, which I also painted.